If one small moment had gone differently, you might have never heard the name Albert Einstein. Because this is not just the story of a genius. This is the story of a boy who almost got left behind by the world. And by the end of this video, you will understand something strange. How the person who changed our understanding of reality was once seen as a problem. And maybe it will change how you see your own life. In a quiet town in the German Empire, a child is born. His name is Albert Einstein, but nothing about him seems special. In fact, it's the opposite. He speaks very late. He avoids eye contact. He prefers silence over conversation. Some adults whisper, something might be wrong with this child. But what they don't see is the storm inside his mind. Because even when he says nothing, he is observing everything. And then something happens. A moment so small, most people would forget it. But not him. At the age of 5, his father gives him a simple gift. A compass, a tiny object, a needle pointing north. But to young Albert Einstein, this is not a toy. This is a mystery. No matter how he turns it, the needle moves back, always pointing the same way. Invisible forces controlling reality. And that thought hits him. There must be something hidden behind everything. That moment never leaves him. And here's the strange part. That single question will one day change the entire world. But before that happens, the world tries to stop him. School, rigid, strict, cold. Teachers demand obedience. Memorize, repeat, follow rules. But Albert Einstein doesn't fit. He questions everything. Why does this work? What if this is wrong? What is really happening? Teachers don't like that. To them, he is difficult, disobedient, even disrespectful. But in reality, he's just thinking differently. And the system was never designed for people like him. At 16, he decides to take a big step. He applies to a top school in Switzerland. The entrance exam, this is his chance. And then he fails, not in physics, not in math, but in everything else, languages, history, subjects he doesn't care about. Imagine that, a future genius rejected. So let me ask you something. If you were him, would you quit? Or would you try again? Because what he does next defines everything. Instead of giving up, Albert Einstein takes a different path. He finishes his studies later, applies again, and this time, he gets in. Finally, he studies physics, the thing he truly loves. It feels like things are finally working. But that feeling doesn't last long. After graduation, he expects a job, a university position, a chance to do real science, but no one hires him. No recommendations, no connections, no support. He becomes invisible. Months pass. Then years, nothing, until finally he accepts something unexpected, a job at a patent office. Not a scientist, not a professor, just a clerk reviewing technical documents all day. For most people, this would be the end, a quiet failure, dream over. But for Albert Einstein, this is where everything begins. Because while others see boring paperwork, he sees ideas. Every device, every invention triggers a question. How does this really work? And what are we missing? And then something changes. A normal year for the world, but not for Albert Einstein. Because in this single year, he does something almost impossible. He publishes 4 scientific papers. Not 1, 4. each one powerful enough to change physics. The first explains light as particles, something no one fully accepted before. The second proves atoms are real, something many scientists still doubted. The third redefines motion and time. And the fourth becomes the most famous equation in history. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Not just a formula. A revolution. But here's what makes it unbelievable. He does all of this while working a full-time office job. No lab. No funding. No recognition. Just thought experiments. Just imagination. So here's the question. Was he a genius? Or was he simply someone who refused to stop thinking? Because what comes next will shock the entire world. Years pass. Slowly, people begin to notice. The papers, the ideas, the brilliance. And then, in 1915, Albert Einstein completes his greatest work. The general theory of relativity. He says something that sounds almost unreal. Gravity is not a force. It is the bending of space and time. Let that sink in. Space can bend. Time can change. Reality is not fixed. At first, people don't believe him. It's too strange, too abstract, too different. But then, a solar eclipse. Scientists travel across the world to test his prediction. They observe the stars. And they see it. Light bending around the sun. Exactly as he said. And in that moment, everything changes. Overnight, Albert Einstein becomes the most famous scientist on Earth. Newspapers everywhere. Headlines, photos, interviews. A scientist turned global icon. But fame comes with a price. The world is not peaceful. Tension is rising. War is coming. And Albert Einstein finds himself in the middle of something much bigger than science. He is Jewish. Germany is changing. A dangerous ideology is growing. When the Nazis rise to power, he is no longer safe. His work is attacked. His name is targeted. Even his life is in danger, so he leaves. He never returns. He moves to the United States, a new life, a new beginning. But also a new dilemma, because in 1939 something happens, something that will follow him forever. Scientists fear that Nazi Germany might build an atomic bomb, a weapon unlike anything before. Unimaginable power, unimaginable destruction. So Albert Einstein signs a letter, a warning sent to President Roosevelt urging the United States to act, to start research, to prepare. That letter helps trigger the Manhattan Project. Years later, the bomb becomes reality. And then it is used. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. The world changes forever. And Albert Einstein is left with a question. Was it the right decision? Or the biggest mistake of his life? He later calls it his greatest regret. But think about this. If he had done nothing, would history have been better? Would history have been better? Or worse? There is no simple answer. And maybe there never will be. In his final years, Albert Einstein becomes quieter, more reflective, less concerned with fame, more focused on one last idea. A unified theory, one equation to explain everything, all forces, all physics, all reality. A final answer, but he never finds it. And that's where things get interesting. Because even the man who changed the world could not understand everything. Even the greatest mind had limits. And maybe that's the most important part of his story. A hospital room in Princeton. Albert Einstein knows the end is near. Doctors offer surgery, a chance to live longer. He refuses. "I want to go when I want," he says. No fear, no panic, just acceptance. And on April 18th, he is gone. But his ideas are not. They are everywhere. In your phone, in GPS satellites, in modern physics, in how we understand the universe. But here's the real question. What is his true legacy? Is it the equation, the theories, the fame, or is it something else? Because if you look closely, Albert Einstein was never just a scientist. He was something more, a thinker, a questioner, a rebel against accepted truth. And maybe that's why his story still matters. So now, let me ask you something. If you were misunderstood, ignored, or even rejected, would you stop? Or would you keep going? Because history shows us something strange. Greatness does not always look impressive at the beginning. Sometimes it looks like failure. Sometimes it looks like silence. And sometimes it looks like a child, staring at a compass, wondering how the universe works. And maybe that's where everything begins. But the truth is, we still don't fully understand everything he started, and maybe we're not supposed to. Because the real power was never the answer. It was the question. And the next question is, what will you do with yours? Thank you for watching.